Awesome. Thank you, Captain Ara. Okay, we're going to do something a little different this evening. We're going to do town council stuff first and then do everything later after that. So, Deanna, can you do roll call since you're our acting secretary for tonight? Oh, she doesn't have a... Oh.
It's on your agenda. Directors.
Oh, she's fine. She's good.
Ryan,
Here.
Richard Morris,
Here.
Joanne Phillips,
Leave of absence.
Excused.
Mike Brown,
Here.
Steve Ennis,
Here.
Rick Richard,
Here.
Joe Soper,
I'm here.
Jack Wellis,
Here.
Steph Race,
He's excused.
Seymour Rodriguez,
Oh, Simone's excused.
Steve Ennis again.
Yeah, sorry.
Eden,
Eden's also excused. All right. Okay, so on the table should be a copy of the minutes. If there aren't any changes, can I get a motion to approve the minutes from July 10th?
I'll move to motion.
All right, Steve motions to approve. Can I get a second?
I will second it.
All right, Jack seconds. Any other discussion or changes? All right, all those in favor of approving the minutes from July 10th?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? All right. Next thing we got is we're going to appoint a couple people into our vacancies. First one is Deanna Gurley. Hopefully I'm saying that right. Okay, fantastic. She applied to be our Director North. Do you want to stand up and introduce yourself?
I'm Deanna, and I live just a few blocks away off of Pocahontas and Luna, and I'm happy to be Director North. All right. Right.
Excellent. Can I get a motion to appoint Deanna into Director North?
I move to appoint her as the director.
All right, Jack motions. Can I get a second?
Second.
Second by Rick. Any discussion from the board or members?
Happy to have her on board.
All righty. All those in favor of appointing Deanna Gurley into Director North, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? All right, unanimous. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Now you can come sit up here if you want to. All right, next. Is Arlene here?
I don't see Arlene. Arlene? Herbst?
Okay, Arlene's not here. All right. The next one is Jennifer Campbell, MD.
Should we move forward with Arlene,
Oh,
despite the fact she's not here?
we can, if you would like to.
Yeah, she
Okay.
appreciate
May I
it.
suggest that we wait and see if she arrives so she can at least introduce herself to the General Assembly?
Well, we
Do
can,
that after the fact.
yeah, she can do it after the fact.
All right.
Okay. So can I get a motion to appoint Arlene Garcia Herbst into the Director at Large position?
I'll move to make that appointment.
All right, Steve motions. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Second by Joe. All those in favor of appointing Arlene Garcia Herbst into Director at Large, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? All right, congratulations, Arlene. And then when Arlene gets here, she will introduce herself. Next, Jennifer Campbell, MD, is here also. Dr. Jen applied for the Director at Large, and she is here. Jen, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Jennifer. I live about 6 blocks away from here, and I love living in Claremont, and I'm delighted to be of service.
Awesome, thank you. All right, can I get a motion to appoint Jennifer Campbell, MD, to the Board of Directors, Director at Large? Rick motions, can I get a second?
I will second.
All right, Richard Moore seconds. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? All right. That takes care of all those action items. Congratulations. Come on up. Board of Directors reports. For my president report, Claremont Family Days was a huge success. It was the 25th year of that particular event. It was really great up until about the point when it started raining. That wasn't too fun. Other than that, everyone else just had a great time. We in the town council enjoy sponsoring that event. We've got PolitiFest coming up on Saturday, which we are also a part of, and that's going to be taking place over at Liberty Station Saturday from 10 to 2, and we hope to see you all out there. It's a great event put on by Voice of San Diego, and I think NBC7 San Diego is another big sponsor of that, and I think Kogo Radio is as well. A lot of us are going to be out there. Do you want to say anything to that, Steve? Or?
No, I have nothing to add.
Okay. Well, it looked like you were going to say something. I just wanted to like.
Agree.
Okay. All right. Fantastic. So other than that, come out Saturday for PolitiFest. Hopefully it doesn't rain. It should be sunny. That really is my my report for this month. Richard, do you have anything?
For bylaws, not right now.
Okay. All right. Joanne's not here. Mike, treasury report.
Yes.
Okay, you should have the treasurer's report there in front of you. It is what it is. I just wanted to point out a couple of things. We have a couple of expenditures for our website. And right now we're receiving payments for our Google ads, so they actually offset a little bit more than what we pay for our website. So that's a good thing starting this month. So we'll see how the ads work out as we go through. But other than that, we now have $14,578.46 in the bank. Are there any questions on the report? Okay, thank you.
All right. Sergeant Arms, do you have anything to report?
We're working on bringing movies to the park here in Claremont, sponsored by the Claremont Town Council. We're looking at hopefully being able to do this in either late August or early September. We will definitely be having the programs in 2015. We picked the ball up a little bit late to be able to do it for this season, but we're going to try anyway. And we'll look forward to your participation and bring out the kids. Your question? Currently, it'll be the North Claremont Community Center on Bannock Street. Which park would you prefer? Okay.
All right. Let's see who's next on the list. Rick Richard, membership. What do we got?
Okay, got a lot to talk about here. First of all, we have 91 members as of this month. We picked up 5 more. I've been mentioned for the last several months that we're going into a prorated paying system where you pay the first quarter and then so much reduced by 25% the next quarter and so on. Well, anyways, the board decided they didn't want that. We're going back to the other system. The only difference is that where it used to be, you would pay, let's say in January, you'd be paid through January next year. If you paid in March, it'd be through March of next year. Well, I didn't like that because there was too many problems involved, too much work. So that's when I decided to go ahead, and at this time they went along with me on it, to go and prorate it where, let's say from January, February, March would be the first quarter, then it would be reduced by 25 and so on. So now it's back to where it was before, except you're paying your dues from January to December. As far as if you pay in March, it's still going to be the same amount if you pay in January, if you pay in December. Okay? For the veterans and seniors, it's $10, no matter when you pay for it. For general membership and family members, it's $20. For nonprofit business, it's $30, and for profit business, it's $50. So it'll be the same all the way through the year, no matter what month you pay it in, and it's going to expire in December, start a new price. New membership in January. Okay, so that's been voted on by the board. We've asked also, the ladies at the front desk, several times people come in, they ask if you're a member. If you are, you sign in. And of course, any paid member is on that roster that we have there. And if you haven't picked up your card, and again, I've been telling for months now, I've been saying I've got about 50-something cards of members. People aren't picking up their cards. I don't know if they're just not coming to the meetings. If they are, they're forgetting to pick up the cards. But the cards are back there. If you're a paid member, check with the lady back there and find out if your card is in that stack. If it isn't, come to me, and I'll find out why you don't have a card. Also, when they ask if you want to become a member, people ask, well, what is the advantage of becoming a member? First of all, the money that comes in there is, you know, people have been belong for a while. Every year at Christmas time, we put on the big Christmas dinner. That comes out of the money that comes in here. Any expenses that we have, which a lot, mostly minor expenses, comes out of all that money as well. The grants that we give out comes out of the, I'm trying to think of the program. The Garden Tour. The Garden Tour takes care of the grants that we give out each year. So anyways, if you want to become a member, like I told you what the rates are going to be, you get the advantage of voting at any business that comes up in front of the board up here, that comes for the membership. Anybody can come and anybody can talk, but in order to vote, you have to be a paid member. If you are a paid member, you also get a chance to get one of our little tickets over here for the gifts that we're going to give away. Plus, we send out a newsletter all the time telling you what's taking place within the council. If you're not a member, you're not going to know. If you are a member, you better make sure you give us your email address. If you don't give us your email address, we have no way of not contacting you. So that's a must. Let me see what else I have. Okay, I think okay, well, we used to have the, years ago, we used to have the yellow and the orange cards. If you're a paid member, when you come in, you ask for a vote, you raise one of the cards. Now, what we're gonna do, since we don't use the cards anymore, if you're a paid member, again, like I say, you don't get to vote if you're not a paid member, raise up your membership card or raise up one of the raffle tickets. At least we know that you're a paid member. And the sergeant at arms is supposed to count the members, however many's voting. That's his job here. So, other than that, I think I pretty well covered what I wanted to say. So, thank you.
Thank you, Rick.
Awesome, thanks, Rick.
Joe, you have anything?
Oh, Joe, you have something?
No, I would like to add two things to that if I may. Number one is that we welcome our new members on the board. We still have one open position for a director at large. And also I'd like to take a moment to welcome Jesus, who is our student representative. She's applied for the position. I wanted to introduce her to everybody. Ryan met her at the Family Days, and she's very involved in the community already, and we're happy to have her aboard. So thank you and welcome.
All right, Jack.
You're next. Microphone.
I don't need a microphone. After 30 years in the Navy, I know how to speak loud enough to be heard over engine room noise. I don't have any information to pass on about the audit committee, but I am also a member of the Public Safety Awareness Committee. I attend Captain Hara's advisory board meetings that he holds with various community groups. And Captain Hara puts out a lot of really very good information. I think he'll cover most of it tonight. I won't need to do it because of his presence. But he and his Northern Division, it does a tremendous job in providing us public safety, and I just wanted you to be aware of that. Thank you, Captain.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Jack. Jen, since you're new on the board, do you have anything to report?
Not yet.
Not yet. All right. Deanna. All right. Moving forward, that's a great segue into public safety. Captain Hara.
I won't need a mic. I'm used to screaming at riots and stuff like that. All right, so anyways, hey, my name is Jerry. I think I know quite a few of you. I'm captain for Northern Division, which does encompass all of Claremont. It's basically Torrey Pines Golf Course to SeaWorld, 805 freeway to the water. 42 square miles, 225,000 residents. Kind of a lot, more than the city of Chula Vista. But I'm going to cover a couple incidents, and then the big news is that you actually have a brand new lieutenant, Misty Cedrin, was promoted to be the director of the Family Justice Center, and she's now the lieutenant of domestic violence. So good for her. Great for her. And what happens now is you have a new lieutenant, and I'm not going to steal any of her thunder. She will actually introduce herself and just tell you a little bit about herself real quick. Tina Williams.
Hi, how is everybody tonight?
Wonderful.
Wonderful? Look at that energy. That's what I like. I have been recently assigned to Northern Division, like Captain Hara said. This is day 3 at Northern Division. We've had a very busy first couple of days. My first day here, though, we did the National Night Out So everywhere we went, I was applauded, so it was a very good first day. So I'm going to expect that now every time I go out in the community, that, you know, I get the same reception. I hope to live up to Lieutenant Sedrin. It's big shoes to fill. Background on me is I recently was a detective sergeant out of our gang unit, which is downtown. We had citywide responsibility. I had a team that was responsible for emerging gang sets and the graffiti strike force unit. Prior to that, I had one of the GST uniform teams, the gang suppression teams that were in the uniform, so the proactive side. I was assigned to Eastern Division as a sergeant when I was first promoted, and then I did a majority of my time in Southeast Division. So I'm very excited to be up here at Northern Division. I have a lot to learn, especially the area, and I'm hoping to get a lot of input and help from everybody here that's on the town council. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, guys. So I was just alerted that because we're doing the live stream, any of the future speakers, you have to use the microphone because it's not getting picked up on the live stream. So, yes. So we're using the microphone from now on. With that, San Diego Fire Rescue, come on up.
Good evening. How's everybody doing? Good. All right. My name's Andrew Young. We have Chief Hartman, Captain Pugh, Engineer Kosh, and Firefighter Crone back there. We're normally on this day we have 3 divisions, so you might see a different crew different times. But I just wanted to talk about a little bit 27s right down there next to the post office. The number of fire calls that we've had for this month have been 12. Medical calls have been 182. Miscellaneous have been 28, and the total number of runs have been 226. Of our entire battalion, it's just a bigger area, multiple stations. We've had over 1,700 calls for this month. But other than that, just wanted to mention a couple things. I left a couple flyers right over here on the side. First one's going to be poison, and I'll kind of address a couple topics on that. Just 1/4 of all home injury deaths are caused by poisoning. If you have any products, cleaners, medicines, anything like that, and you have children at the house, just make sure you have child-proof doors or locks, anything like that. Make sure you follow manufacturer's instructions for use of chemical cleaners. If any of your medicine's been expired, actually our North Division, they do collect expired medicine. That's right off of Eastgate Mall in Genesee. All right. Other than that, next thing, with the packet, as well as over there, it's called Ready, Set, Go. It's just a continual reminder of any wildland fires that we have, anything going on. The ready part is just making sure that your house, any dead vegetation or a lot of trees, is just kind of clear from the area. Making sure you have any emergency supplies build up, as well as just making sure you know a good escape route. Being set is just packing your emergency items, making sure you're aware of all the information, staying on top of news, making sure you know anything else that's going on with the local emergency services. And go is just making sure you have a wildland fire action plan and you just kind of follow through with that, making sure that all the family members know and the community. And that was kind of quick, but with that, do you have any questions about those 2 topics or anything else that may be on your mind? Yes.
I recently learned about a service called 211, and as I understand it, they kind of triage information in an emergency. You work with them?
211 is there. It's 211 San Diego. It's its own emergency program, or not really emergency, but what it is they have a lot of programs, and also be aware that they're constantly changing, just due to nonprofit organizations. But that's a good resource. So if you have somebody that's going through a particular situation, and they have a lot of resources available with them. So it could be really any situation you can think of. I won't go into detail on that, but they're a really good resource, and they have a lot of phone numbers and contacts and organizations that they can help you or somebody else that may be in need to get the right resources and information to help them out. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Also, there was that, I guess there's a new phone app that if somebody's in need of a CPR or something, it goes out to all the telephones that have that app, so if you happen to be closer than a first responder, you can get there and start CPR before.
That's correct.
As soon as possible.
Yes, that's correct. I don't recall the name of the app off the top of my head, but yes, if you sign up for the application, what it is, if somebody's in CPR and they've called, they will actually send that individual that has the app information, so maybe you could be of service to help out or kind of control the situation, but ultimately make sure that first responders, 911's called so that we can get there. And,
That's called Pulse Point.
Pulse Point, yes.
Pulse Point.
Yes, thank you. Is that?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Is there anything else I can help you out? Yes, sir.
Spraying old meds to one of the stations?
Expired medications, we have there's two locations. There's the Northern Division and Southern Division. For here, it's gonna be more convenient to go to the police station off of Eastgate Mall and Genesee. And that's the Northern Division. They should have a container for that. I'm not sure exactly what it looks like, but they have a container for that, and it should be labeled for expired medications.
Where is that? Genesee and...
Eastgate Mall and Genesee.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Yes. Yeah. Near UTC area. Yep.
And your question?
Yes, sir.
Unfortunately, I was recently a patient that received emergency care. Both a fire department engine arrived as well as an ambulance. The ambulance took me to Scripps. When there is a 911 call, which my wife made, does it go to multiple agencies, or is there a central agency that gets it and then directs one element to come?
We have a public service answering point, so usually if it's made through a cell phone, typically it goes to CHP, then CHP redirects it. We have one for fire as well as PD. If it's made from a landline, they'll be able to get that and notify the proper authorities. Is that answering your question? Or?
Well, I was sorry that there was duplicative effort in responding to my emergency, and I was worried about, wasting resources, and that was what I was thinking about.
I understand. No, typically for medical emergencies, we respond as well. We don't do just fire. We respond to medical emergencies, traffic accidents. We have a lockout. We respond to a lot of things, and that's to aid and assist with. Sometimes we're the first ones there before the ambulance, just because they're running so many other medical aids that we might get there a little before them. So they'll dispatch the closest unit so that you get help as soon as possible. So the fire department will show up.
So you're paramedic firefighters?
Yes.
Show up.
Yeah, we do have a paramedic firefighter on each engine.
Perfect. And thank you for your service.
Oh, thanks, sir. Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Awesome.
Have a good night.
We have a half minute for Arlene
Yes.
to introduce herself.
So Arlene, our new director at large, just showed up. Arlene, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. My name is Arlene Garcia Herbst. I apologize for being late today. My husband's off in Afghanistan, and I'm a solo parent until September, so my sitter showed up a little late, and hence I'm late. But that won't be a regular occurrence. Thank you very much to the board for recommending me to serve as the new director at large. Look forward to meeting you guys and speaking to you more and learning about your concerns, and I'm here to assist in any way that I can. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Arlene.
All right. Did our guest speaker show up, Michael Vu? All right. So we're going to move on to our guest speaker just to be considerate of his time. Michael Vu is recently our new registrar of voters. Deborah Seiler, I think, had the position before. This is the guy that makes sure all the ballots are counted and everything is certified. You have a presentation that we can get on here, or okay?
Just switch it out.
Let's see, what kind of connections is it though? Yeah, flash. Yeah, okay. Okay.
Hey, Brian, while
Susan?
Blake's doing that, can I cover just two things, Jack?
Oh, yeah, sure, yeah.
Cover just two quick things. I'm sorry.
Filler time.
Filler time.
Filler time.
I'll talk real slow. Hey, you might have heard on the news, first of all, yesterday it was a very busy day for Northern officers. We had a guy in Mission Bay Drive, basically he wanted to kill himself. He had armed himself with a gun, and that's why you saw all that traffic there. There were several kids in the area, several bystanders, and we did definitely have a perimeter on the area, and then we tried to negotiate. We thought we were successful, and then all of a sudden he decided to come out storming in with a gun. Officers used tremendous restraint. It takes tremendous restraint to not fire because the backdrop was kids, it was playgrounds, it was a whole bunch of people, and public safety is our #1 priority. So instead of firing back, they just took cover and kept it contained until we had proper equipment and proper officers who fired the one solo shot and then was able to neutralize the suspect. But I can't get into too much more, but just know your officers did a tremendous job. No one was hurt other than our suspect, obviously, and we'll keep moving forward for your safety.
And your officers grabbed the children and put them under safety, under cover.
Yeah, there were several kids there in the playgrounds, and basically what they did was round all the kids and put them into the concrete bathrooms and protected them just in case the suspect walked over to them. So again, it takes a tremendous heart to actually run towards a suspect with a gun as opposed to run away. So they did a great job. And then lastly, you might have also heard just right down over off of Renaissance and UTC, there was a guy that was leaving UTC, he had just had lunch, and a male decided to attack him with a knife, stabbed him over about 40 times. Luckily, the guy's okay. But with the help of UTC security and several other witnesses, we were able to identify the person within an hour. We had him identified, and then about an hour or two ago, our detectives, we put out an APB basically on him, and our detectives found him. He was trying to get on a trolley over by Park Boulevard and Broadway. We contacted him, he tried to get away, and he is now in custody. He's been positively identified as our attempted murder suspect. He's being charged as such, and we'll move forward with that. So our cops are doing a tremendous job with the resources we have, and thank you for all your continued support. Lastly, before I leave, I know there's a lot of questions regarding OVO. It starts, enforcement will start the oversized vehicle ordinance, basically your RVs that are parked on city streets. It is citywide, and we'll be getting enforcement in September. Police investigative service officers and graveyard officers will be conducting that enforcement. If you want any more information on OVO, it's on the city website. Please go. It's a very simple ordinance. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Captain.
Okay, we are ready to go. Michael Vu.
Yay, Michael Vu.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate the opportunity to speak before you today, and I appreciate Ryan, who, the president, who welcomed and invited me to attend this town meeting and talk with you about the Registrar of Voters office. I think most of you know what the Registrar of Voters do. We issue ballots, we let you vote, we prepare for the elections, the upcoming elections, and we do a lot more. And I really want to get into the first slide here. So what is the makeup of our electorate in our county? So let me tell you a little bit about the Registrar of Voters office. We have a population of over 3.1 million, correct, in San Diego County. Well, of that 3.1 million, 1.5 million, almost close to 1.6 million of those of us are registered to vote. When we talk about the total number of registered voters, we also now, in terms of the county, have to talk in terms of the total number of people that are voting by mail, and that's going to be the bulk of my presentation today. As Ryan mentioned to you, I was the assistant registrar before becoming the registrar back in 2012, where Deborah Seiler, who served in her capacity as the registrar for 5 years, decided to retire and go back and live in Sacramento, where she's originally from. So I got an opportunity to get promoted to the Registrar of Voters and have been doing this since December of 2012. And no sooner did the November 2012 election finish up, did we spiral into this special elections that we've conducted. We never did even get a break. I would say the first break that we've had is between this past June election and today. So we're right in the middle of candidate filing. We've had over 400 candidates or individuals that have been interested in becoming a candidate, and actually tomorrow is the final day to become a candidate or qualify as a candidate. So the filing deadline is tomorrow if you're interested to running for office. Anyways, let me get back to some statistics and the demographics of our county. Let's see here. I think the captain talked about his square miles. We're San Diego County is, of course, 4,500 square miles, and we have a huge geographic. We're a huge geographic location. If you think about mega churches in terms of religion, you have to talk about mega counties like ours. Only shadowing us is really Los Angeles County when it comes down to the state. We're the second largest county in terms of registered voters within the state. In the country, we're the 8th largest election jurisdiction in the country. So that kind of gives you some perspective of the size and the clout that San Diego County has. When we also talk about our office, we have 64 permanent full-time employees. Yet, during a countywide, statewide election, we bloom up to 600 to 700 employees. So by the time an election, let's say this past June 3rd election was conducted, we had hired nearly 700 individuals as seasonal staff members to work for our office. And that's not including the 6,000 poll workers that we have to recruit for every statewide and countywide election. I always tease my Health and Human Services director within the county. His name is Nick Machione. I always say for a 13-hour period, I have more employees than he does. Anyways, we have to recruit 1,403 polling places, and those polling places are really difficult to find. A lot of those are residents, a lot of them are schools, a lot of them are churches, a lot of them are government buildings, a lot of them are public buildings. Yet we have to go to every single one of these sites. We're like building inspectors to making sure that they're ADA accessible, so people have an ability, if they have a disability in particular, have the ability to access the polling place. And then the last item there is languages. We serve, because we're federally covered, 4 additional languages to English. Those are Filipino, Vietnamese, Chinese, and Spanish. Yet we have an additional 4, which we're covered under the statewide Voting Rights Act, which includes, and these were the 3 newest languages, including Khmer, Hindi, Korean, and then Japanese. So those are the languages that we serve, and we translate all of the election materials into 4 federally covered languages, and then in terms of the state languages, we just translate the ballot, and we just have to post that onto each polling place that it's required in. Let me go ahead and go to the next slide. I'm going to try to go as quickly because I've got a lot of information here. Our county, our elected should be happy, should be standing proud, frankly. If you look at the last presidential general election, the 2012 presidential general election, in this region we had the highest turnout of all the Southern California counties. And what I mean by Southern California counties, I'm talking about LA, Orange County, Riverside, and San Bernardino. If you look here, you can look at the percentage as to what that turnout is. We are at 77% of our electorate turned out during that 2012 presidential general election. It's not the highest turnout we had. In fact, the highest turnout we had was in 2008's presidential general election. But if you look at it, this is where my colleagues comes into play. If I always talk about the registrar of voters within Los Angeles County or Orange County, in particular Orange County, because between us and Orange County, we always toggle between being second or third largest elections jurisdiction within the state. Now we're the second largest, but next year we might not be. It just depends on the total number of registered voters. Look at their percentage. They're at 67%. Our participation rate was 10% higher than in Orange County. And then you have Los Angeles at 68, San Bernardino at 69, and then 71% in Riverside. I don't want to even give you the numbers for the primary election. The primary election that we just had was not even close to the 77% mark. We were actually 50% below that mark. And that tells you the difference between when you conduct a primary election versus when you conduct a general election, and particularly a presidential general election versus a gubernatorial primary election. So, okay, you can't really see what this says, but this is Claremont's makeup right here. In terms of registered voters, if you look at that, you can see Dems, of course, means Democrats, Republicans. AIP is the American Independent Party. AE stands for Americans Elect. They're the newest party. You can see that they only have a couple of people in east, north, or south Claremont. Green, you can see very small numbers, Libertarian. PNF is Peace and Freedom. And then you look at the next one there is the nonpartisan. You can see the kind of the balance that you're seeing between Democrats, Republicans, and nonpartisan. Democrats having a higher number of registered voters in the Claremont area. Next goes Republicans, and the second, third, close to that is the nonpartisan race. Let me go ahead and turn the slide there. Okay, so let me get into some statistics with you about our voting behavior and how this county is changing in the way it votes. Okay, and it's not just within Claremont, it's not just within the state, it's happening within our county. In fact, in our county, we're higher than the state average. So let me talk with you about where the state trend is going. If you look at where I put the bracket right there, starting in the June 3rd, 2008 presidential primary election, was the first election where you had more vote-by-mail voters casting a ballot than individuals going to the polls, right? And then you had, of course, the big general election that happened subsequent to that, where the polling place voters was above the vote-by-mail. And then you keep on going until you hit the June 5th. Actually, each primary election since the June 2008 presidential primary, every primary since then, there's always been a higher number of people voting by mail than going to the polls. And that's, of course, until you hit November 6, 2012, our last presidential general election. In the state, we had more mail ballot voters voting than people going to the polls, 51 to 49%. So how did San Diego County look? Well, if you look at this, this is the actual breakdown between mail ballot voters and polling place. The orange bar that you see there is the total number of registered voters within each of the elections. If you look at from 2000 through 2012, all the major elections, general elections that we've had, you can see that in 2010 general elections is where the number of mail ballot voters was higher than the polls voters, and we have not looked back since. In fact, when we conducted the 2012, as I mentioned, for the statewide election, there was a 51% to 49% ratio. In our county, it was a 56 to 44% turnout. Okay, and you can see the numbers there. Those are the raw numbers that you see back there. 675,000 of the 1.2 million voted mail ballot, and then the little over nearly 530,000 went to the polls. Go ahead, Ryan. Okay, so why? If you look at this trend right here, these are the trend lines that we've been tracking. And as you can see, in 2004 to 2013, we have quadrupled, 400% increase in the total number of people who have signed up to be a permanent mail ballot voter, right? And so if you look at the total number of registered voters, the question is at what point will we reach the total number of registered voters? I don't think we'll ever reach 100%, but we'll be darn close, unless the state changes the legislation where we go to an all vote by mail type of an election.
How likely is that?
Right now, I'm going to talk about a bill that's out there that the county is sponsoring, and it's authored by Assemblywoman Lorena Gonzalez. But the chances of us going to an all vote by mail election is probably not likely. And the reason why is because there's for us, we have to take in consideration of two different points. As I mentioned earlier, people with disabilities, as also people with limited English proficiency. And so there's probably always going to be some degree of a satellite format for people to go to cast a ballot. Plus, there are a lot of people that still cast their ballots by polls and want to still do that. It's a tradition. So they want to go to their polling place. I see us consolidating this county, the state, consolidating more heavily in terms of the total number of precincts and polling places. So let's say right now it's 1 for every 1,000 registered voters. It could be 1 for every 10,000 somewhere down the future. Yeah.
So reality, what costs more money? Is it expensive to mail out ballots versus going to polling place?
Actually, we see it's 30 to 40% in a hybrid format where you have consolidated precincts. But primarily vote by mail, that is, we were sending out mail ballots to everyone and even paying the postage, that the cost savings is 30 to 40% if we went to that model than the current model. And remember, why? We have to recruit 1,403 polling places. We have to recruit 6,000 plus poll workers. In fact, it's more than 6,000 because there's a lot of people that end up dropping out at the last minute. So we have to recruit more than the 6,000. We have to pay all of that. We have to train all those folks. That means we have to bring on trainers. Remember the 600 to 700 people that we had to hire, seasonal staff? There's quite a bit of cost associated with that.
What is the likelihood of a voter voting who's a mail-in voter versus one who goes?
We're going to get to that in a second. What's the propensity of a person voting a mail ballot versus a person going to the polls? We'll get to that in a second. Let's go. Right. All right, here's Claremont. Here's your percentage of permanent mail ballot voters. You're at 53. This is, by the way, the average in San Diego. It's about, actually, in the city of San Diego, it's about 52%. 52%. The county is 54%. The entire electorate is permanent mail ballot voters. Claremont, 53. City of San Diego is 52%. Okay. So you can kind of see the average there. I'm sorry. The blue bar, let me explain. The yellow bar are those people that are signed up to be a permanent mail ballot voter. The blue bar are those people that are registered, right? So in fact, so if you look at the numbers here, in Claremont South, 13,761 registered voters. Of that 13,761 registered voters, 53% or 7,292 are permanent mail ballot voters, okay? All right, so let's keep on going, Ryan. All right, so let's look at the turnout of this. So we've been trying to track the turnout. 2010 turnout versus, this is the general election, by the way. The average overall turnout for that election, 64.2. Pretty healthy election for a gubernatorial general election. If you look at the percentage of permanent vote by mail voters that we sent a ballot to, the return rate of that is 70.2%. Higher than the overall, okay? So let's go down to, if you look at it from a language perspective, right? These were, by the way, Filipino, Spanish, and Vietnamese we track because we're federally covered, again, for these languages to provide election materials. So we're tracking this these three populations. Why is Chinese not in there? Is because we were not covered with Chinese back in 2010. Subsequent to 2010, you'll see 2012, you'll see Chinese numbers, population, and their turnout in this equation. 50% to 60%, right? 50%. A person that's signed up permanently, vote by mail, that gets a ballot, is 60% likely to return their ballot to us. Okay, go ahead. All right, so this is the 2012. Same thing as you saw in 2010. Now fast forward to 2012 general presidential election. You can see the numbers there. 1 percentage point difference than the overall turnout of 77%. Right? But then if you look at the language component, and I mentioned about the Chinese, you start seeing that 10 percentage point difference there too. Again, okay? All right, thanks, Ryan. All right, so we conducted some special elections for the city of San Diego. These are let me step back for a second. As I mentioned earlier, after the November 2012 presidential election, we went straight into vacancy special elections. We knew that after the November 2012 election, there was a good high likelihood that the 40th State Senate office was going to be vacated because the person became a congressman, right? Ben Hueso. It's not Ben Hueso, actually.
Vargas.
Yes. Juan Vargas, thank you. Ben Hueso was the one that was in the 80th State Assembly District and won the 40th State Senate special election. But if you look at these numbers here, okay, so let me just give you perspective here. The 40th State Senate election, about 244,000 registered voters. 15% turnout of that number went out to vote, which is about 37,000 people went to vote. Of that number, 31,000 people went and voted a mail ballot. That left only 6,000 people for a 13-hour period, over 200 polling places went to the polls for a 13-hour period, only 15%. One precinct that we had only had one voter in it. There was more poll workers than there were voters that day. All right, so that, remember, that was 40th State Senate election had a part of the city of San Diego in there. Fourth San Diego City Council District was vacated. We conducted that election on March 26th. Again, 73% of the entire votes cast in the election were mail ballot, and you can see just the trend. We go back to the 80th State Assembly District. We had the 4th San Diego City Council District runoff election. Same thing, 82% of all votes cast mail ballots. By the way, the 40th State Senate election, I call it the poster child of special elections, $1.5 million. and that the county had to bear the cost of that election, not the state, even though it's a state office. 80th State Assembly District, 4th City Council District, and then the one-off election that did not touch the city of San Diego was Encinitas city special election measure that they had out there, 74%. So those were our 4. Now, let's go ahead and turn the slide. Okay, well, we thought we were through after the June Encinitas election, not going to have any more special elections for the year. And then a month later, we started hearing the rumblings. We started hearing the rumblings that something's happened in the mayoral office, right? Next thing we know is we are conducting, on November 19th, the special mayoral election, primary election. So you can see there, 68% of all votes cast in that election were mail ballots compared to the 32, and there's the breakdown by city council districts. City council district 2, right? Brian?
Yeah, we're here, and then the other part of Claremont is
In 6, okay, so we got 2 and 6. So you can see the numbers there. So in 2, let me see, I think I wrote this number down here. I want to make sure I go over with you. So if it's 2 and 6, so 2, 66% of all votes cast in Council District 2 were mail ballots, and then in 6 was 68% of all votes cast. Okay. Go ahead and go to the runoff election. So the runoff election, 2 percentage points lower than what we saw in the primary election, but of course higher in terms of total turnout, right? There was about 290,000 ballots cast in that election overall. I think that was equated to about 40%, I want to say, turnout. But you can kind of see the numbers there. And then in Council District 2, that was a 66% vote by mail, mail ballots cast. And then in Council District 6, it was 66%. Go ahead. All right, so what are we doing? So one of the things about mail ballots, well, in terms of mail ballots, why is it a convenient way? Well, people are gravitating towards this because it saves them time. They can do it at the comforts of their home. We generally send out to all the permanent mail ballot voters that have applied prior to the election. We send out those mail ballots 29 days in advance of the election. For the upcoming election, that'll be October 6th, right? So if you're a mail ballot voter, who's here a mail ballot voter? Right? Yeah, 60%. There you go. There you go, 53%. Raise your hand. All right, so it's a convenient way. You know, one of the things, if you looked at back east and during if you just look at long lines 2012 presidential general elections, I'm sure 2 states are going to come up, and it's going to talk about Florida and it's the state of Virginia. Florida, they had 9-hour waiting lines to vote as a result, and then Virginia had, I think, 2-hour waiting lines, and there's big headlines associated with those. Why? It's because they don't have the same high percentage of vote by mail. In fact, the laws are a lot more conservative than they are out here in the West. Particularly in the state of California. Of course, you hear about Washington and Oregon, all vote by mail states in those 2 states. There's a question right here.
Is the number of polling places per population decided by the state or is it federal? Or is it decided federally?
Ask that question again. I didn't catch that first part.
Who decides how many polling sites you have per population? Is it a state decision or is it federal?
What determines the total makeup of a voting precinct, I think is what you're asking. How many registered voters per precinct? That's dictated by state law. Okay. Yeah. I mean, there's other components to long lines, by the way, than just the sheer surge during a presidential general election of people trying to get to the ballot. Length of the ballot is part of the equation also. How much content is actually on there. And we always take that into consideration also. Anyways, these are the other things that we take into consideration when we talk about mail ballots. We have an aging population. How are they going to get to the polls? We have 1,403. Is that potentially another mechanism where people are going to gravitate towards signing up to be a mail ballot voter? Natural disasters, fires, or Hurricane Sandy. It might be the only way of voting at all is to receive a mail ballot. For us, we are able to report election results a lot sooner. In fact, a lot of the results are now, the majority, if all the special elections, even the primary election, the majority of all ballots cast, I think it was like 53% of all ballots cast were sent out at 8 p.m. sharp. 8 p.m. is when the polls close. 8:01 p.m. we release all of the mail ballot results. That's the very first results that you see. and 53% of all the votes cast in this primary election were those mail ballots.
When are they counted?
So when we mail out the mail ballots at 29 days in advance of the election, and continue throughout the, from 29 days and in, but when we are able to start scanning them in is 11 days prior to the election, right? So that gives us the opportunity to, between 29 days and the 12th day, to verify the signatures and make sure that that's all good. Once the 11th day comes, we are slicing the envelope and then extracting the ballot out, and then are able to scan in the ballots. Now, we don't tabulate at that point. We have to hit, at 8:01 p.m. on election day is when we hit the compile button, and it compiles all the election results. Okay? That way, none of us know what those results look like. Yeah, you can. So the question is can you come in? So the question is, can you come to the Registrar of Voters and vote in office? Yes, you can. You can come to our office, and I'm sorry. Oh, it starts the same day, the 29th day of when we send out the mail ballots. The 29th day before the election is the same day we start in-office voting. Yes. Okay. And there's approximately, you know, during a presidential general election, you could get upwards of 10 to 15,000 people coming to our office. Particularly that last week of the election is where you start seeing it. And again, I'm basing that off of a presidential general election. All right, participation rate higher, I'm going to get that to a second. And then the cost savings we already talked about. Okay, if it was an all vote by mail situation, we actually think it's going to be 40–50% savings. Again, these are all projected numbers. The last time we conducted an all vote by mail elections, in fact, before Oregon became an all vote by mail state, guess who conducted the largest vote by mail election in the country? California, but the city of San Diego. Did you know that? No. Just a little fun fact. The city of San Diego, during the May 5th, 1981, it was a convention center. The build out for the convention. All of you who may have lived here during that time frame and voted, was about the convention center. It was all done by vote by mail. It was the largest one. In fact, Oregon came down for that election. That's where they got the idea. And guess what? Oregon went off and started conducting vote by mail elections, and we have not conducted vote by mail since.
So where's your budget come from?
Our budget, the Registrar of Voters budget, comes from the county. We are we're a part of the county system, and so our budget is what they call general fund monies, because of the nature of our work. We are not revenue driven, if you will, like other departments. Let's go ahead and keep on moving here. So let's talk about the propensity to vote.
You know, you didn't have a slide on the disadvantages of mail-in voting.
We're going to get to that second.
Okay.
I got you. I got you. I always leave the best for last, right? But I got a counter to that too. All right, so let's talk about the propensity to vote of voters. And this is just special elections. All the elections since the 2009, so I believe that's a 5-year time frame. We tracked all of this numbers. The orange bar is the actuals of all the mail ballots cast, and what we sent out, what got returned. That's that percentage. So how does that compare to a person whose only opportunity it is to go into a polling place to vote, right? So if you looked at this, if you looked at the very left-hand bar one, where it's the city of San Diego, this is the runoff election, February 11th, 2014 runoff, you can see that there was about a 24% difference there. A person that receives a mail ballot in their hand, 55% of those people voted a mail ballot. That means whatever's left who didn't receive a mail ballot, what was their likelihood? 31%. But let me show you, remember that 40th State Senate district election on March 12th? Look at that difference. That's 5 times difference. And then the 80th State Assembly District on May 21st. That's about 4 times the difference between a person casting a ballot versus a person whose only opportunity is going to the polls. Okay. All right. Does that answer your question?
That does.
All right.
It's a good program.
Let's keep on moving here, right? All right, so disadvantages, some of the concerns based around about mail ballots. Well, limited English proficiency. How are individuals going to be able to get assistance if they are not able to get their ballot in their respective language? As I mentioned, Filipino, Spanish, Vietnamese, Chinese, and Korean. People with disabilities, how are they going to be able to do it? It's a paper ballot. If they cannot use their hands or their legs to vote, how are they going to vote? That means they need assistance. After Bush v. Gore in 2000, Congress passed what is known as the Help America Vote Act of 2002. And in that bill, in that federal legislation, they said that a person with disability has to be able to vote in private and independently. That's where we got the introduction of the touchscreen voting systems. And if you go to your polling place, you see one unit in there. In fact, this county deployed and purchased 10,200 units to only then have it pulled back because the Secretary of State decertified the system in 2007. So now we only have a conditional use where we're only able to use one touchscreen per precinct. Okay? That's why I go back to this notion. I see a hybrid model, but the primary model is going to be reversed. Right? We're actually living the realities of more people voting than going to the polls, but I think we can go even gravitate more towards that. Okay, we hear this constantly. What is the USPS's viability, right? I mean, are they going to go under at any given point? You hear about Congress, they're going to do away with Saturday mail. You constantly hear that.
Or they could just lose your letter.
Or they could just lose your letter as opposed to sending that email, right? Polling place traditions, again, I mentioned that before. And then this notion of potential voter fraud occurring with the mail ballots. Well, where there's those issues, there's focus. We're focusing in on every single one of those. For example, the limited English proficiency voters, it's not an all vote by mail system. We go to what is known as a vote center concept and drop-off locations where people have the ability to get a bilingual poll worker if needs be, or bilingual assistance to vote. Education is going to be a huge component of that too, which we do currently. So it wouldn't be a far cry from what we currently do. Disability voters, again, it goes back to making sure that people have a place to go to vote. U.S. Postal Service viability, let me just say that we track, and every election, we always track the phone calls that are coming in. I have not received my sample ballot and voter information pamphlet. I have not received my mail ballots to see if there's anything systemic associated with that, because we have a very strong and robust relationship with our post office. Frankly, they love our office because we send a lot of materials out, right? 1.5 million registered voters, 1.5 million sample ballot and voter information pamphlets gets mailed through the U.S. Postal Service. And then over 850, I'm expecting 900,000 people for this upcoming election where we send out a mail ballot. And the list goes on as to what we are doing to gather all the respective data. The fraud component of it, let me just say, go back to Oregon. Oregon has conducted vote-by-mail elections since 2000. Not to say that there hasn't been any voter fraud. There has been 33 cases of voter fraud since 2000 for the state of Oregon. That represents 0.0005%. And if anyone's, remember, and there is the district attorney's office, there's law enforcement, right? So if a person, we expect that people are going to act responsibly and ethically, and if they don't, that's the reason why there are individuals like the district attorneys, organizations like the district attorneys or the Secretary of State's Fraud Investigation Unit. But this notion that that there is rampant voter fraud, I think you can see the numbers in Oregon, particularly when it comes down to mail balloting. Okay, let's go ahead.
Now, I actually think you missed the biggest thing
Okay.
with mail-in voting.
Yes.
That's one of timing.
Yes.
So you pop your vote in the mail, and next thing you know, your favorite candidate, although maybe not illegal to the point of getting jailed, is accused of all kinds of ethical things. And so all of a sudden, all these people that love this guy have voted for him, and you can't recant, you can't fill it out of the mailbox. That's my biggest reason why I don't vote by mail. Is I want to wait right to that last minute.
That's
well, let's say he has been, or let's
and so we've heard all the differences. That's one of them. We've heard the story of people actually voting by mail, but they'll wait to hold on to their vote by mail to see if anything else comes to light in any given particular office or any given particular measure or candidate. So that's and a lot of people drop off their mail ballot on election day or closer to election day. The other reason is that they drop it off on election day is because they still want their vote by their I voted sticker. And we're trying to solve that issue too.
One other thing,
Go ahead.
One other thing too is when you vote at the registrar's office, that is considered a mail-in ballot.
It's called, well, yes, it's
Take it
in
to
office or
mail.
mail and ballot, yes.
So the numbers you're giving us may not be all people that put them in the mail, but some of them did actually show up in person at the Register of Voters as opposed to the polling place, but they're considered a mail-in voter.
Yes, yes.
So the numbers could be a little skewed as far as showing up in person.
Yeah, the percentages are going to be much smaller than what you think in terms of in office. You can only serve so many people a day, not to the tunes of what we're doing now. Yep.
So I'm just curious, is there a way to, or do you have a way to track people that mail in their ballots that don't get to you?
So what we've done, and in fact, you have the ability to also. Did you know that you can go to our website, stvote.com, and when we mail them out, if you're a permanent vote-by-mail voter, and we send those out, and we generally do a media release on that when we send out that many ballots to let people know, you can go online to say, okay, did the mail ballot get mailed? That's number one. We'll provide a date, right? And then if you don't receive it, let's say 48 hours, 72 hours from that date, you can certainly give our office a call.
No, I meant the other way. I mail it to you.
Yes, I'm going to get to that here in a second.
Okay, I'm sorry.
So we mail the ballot to you. You receive the mail ballot. You vote the ballot. You send it back to us. We actually know, because we have what is known as a Pitney Bowes sorter. It processes 24,000 envelopes per hour. And on that is a barcode, and that represents you. And that tells us that we received your mail ballot back. It also captures the signature so we can verify the signature. And then we upload all of that information into our system and post that information on your website. So when you put in your personal information, you can find out, okay, I received my mail ballot, I voted my mail ballot, and the Registrar of Voters has received my mail ballot, right? So, and if you don't receive it, then what we do is we work with our vendor and say, can you track this ballot? And it goes all the way through the U.S. Postal Service to the last point that we know that it's being delivered to you is, we know to the date in which it's being delivered to you. We don't know if it got delivered to you, but we know that it was delivered on that specific date. Okay? And again, stvote.com, it's on your sample ballot and voter information pamphlet that for the first time in this past June election, we put a QR code at the bottom on there, which goes directly to that. Exactly, just like that. A QR code, you use your smartphone, you capture that. It'll take you to a site where you put your last 4 digits, no, I'm sorry, not your last 4 digits, but your home number, your birth date, and your zip code, and it'll get you to your profile. Okay? All right. As I mentioned before, we have a bill out there that the county is sponsoring known as Assembly Bill 1873. It's gone through the Assembly, passed through a committee, Assembly, went to the Senate, passed the Senate committee. It's now under its 3rd reading in the Senate. And we're still working through that with various organizations that have some concerns around even a hybrid model of vote by mail. So we're working through those, and I was taking some of those considerations even as late as today in terms of some changes to this bill. What does it do? It would allow our county, remember that 40th state Senate election and the 80th state Assembly district? It would allow a change in the law where if there was a congressional or legislative vacancy for us to conduct a primarily vote-by-mail election. And some of those conditions is that we would it would require us to do drop-off locations, so many days in advance of election, would require us to have satellite locations where a person could go to on election day as well as on weekends. And the postage would be prepaid. Okay. All right.
Next slide.
Yes. All right, so Ryan asked me to talk about our new building. All right. Oh, sorry.
I'm curious, how many ballots you receive back through the mail that don't have postage on them?
I don't know that number.
The voter has to put their
I don't have that number, but let me just tell you this. We've worked it out with the U.S. Postal Service to just take care of that situation. So we do receive it. We don't reject any ballots because of not insufficient postage.
We don't have to put postage on.
That's not what I'm saying. There's postage that needs to be put on there.
Well, that's one less hurdle for a voter to go through. Some people can't afford to vote because they can't afford to
Yes,
stamp.
that's correct. let me get to the building.
Open Pandora's box.
So one sample, carry it from the post office to the register of voters, right?
What we've worked out with the U.S. And to be serious is that we want to make sure that just because there is insufficient postage in any of those types of situation, that a person's ballot is or votes are not denied to be counted, just based on that. Okay. Okay. So, as I mentioned, we were very busy, and during the after the November 2012 election, we had those we had 4 elections. And then we started hearing rumblings about this mayoral scandal. Well, in between that time frame, it was a matter of timing because we were building a new building, right? And the building was slated to be finished in December. Yet we were asked to conduct an election between November and turn around 49 days later to conduct their runoff election. But we also knew that there was federal laws as well as state laws that said you have to mail out military and overseas ballots 45 days in advance of election. So the city's charter said 49 days between the primary election to a runoff election. There was no way that our office was going to be able to turn around, certify the election, conduct the election, turn around and certify the election, and then send out ballots on top of all of that. That was going to be too much. So it was either break the charter rules or break federal and state laws. And I don't want to say break, maybe that's not really the proper terms. But some consideration had to be made with military and overseas voters. So what we ended up doing is saying, okay, we have to move into this new building also because the land was already sold to Kaiser, right? And Kaiser, on January 1st, the handover of the keys to where we were at, which was at 5201 Ruffin Road, the keys had to be turned over to Kaiser, or we would, if we had stayed, we'd have paid these exorbitant amount to lease it back from Kaiser, and I don't even know if they would have allowed us to. So what we did is said, okay, let's conduct this November 19th election for the primary mayoral election. Move a couple of weeks later, so November 19th, we moved on December 3rd, and then turn around on December 27th, I want to say, so 2 days after Christmas, send out military and overseas ballots 45 days in advance of the February 11th election. So this is the groundbreaking of our new building, which we were kitty corner from where we were before. We were located at 5201 Ruffin Road. We're now a little bit northwest of where we reside, but we're tucked in a little bit. So keep that in mind if you're planning on coming to the Registrar of Voters office. We're at 5600 Overland Avenue. And this is the groundbreaking. We broke ground on December 9th, right? This is the tilt of the walls here of our warehouse because we are co-located, our office and our warehouse are co-located with one another. And then by less than a year, December 3rd, we were already moving into the building. In fact, half of us had to move into the building because the other half had to stay at the old building because we were canvassing and certifying the November 19th election still. So here's the warehouse as it was being built. Go ahead. One of the great things about our new building, a lot more open to the public. We're a very transparent office. People really want to see what our operations look like. We always constantly have observers that want to know what, to watch the mail ballots, to watch any part of the overall process. So one of the things as we designed this, who here has gone to the Registrar of Voters office? What was the very first thing that you saw when you stepped through the door?
So those giant sticker lights or whatever, it's right there when you enter.
For me, it was a counter. Right? That's what you see, it's this us and them. Now if you go into our building, you don't see a counter. You go see and you can circulate through essentially through an open gallery. We call it an observation gallery. And in that observation gallery, which is this part right here, that one to the right, that's our observation gallery right there. And you see those off to the left side of the wall, you'll see windows. We have a lot of windows there so people can really see essentially every part of the process, counting the ballots, opening the mail ballots. We also, what I really love about our new building is what I call educational art. If you go into that observation gallery, you'll see the history of San Diego County voting, the voting systems that is being used. You'll see a barrel, it's a plastic barrel, 1 million chads in there. right? You'll see all the different various poll worker pins that we have. I don't know if you know this, if you've been a poll worker before, you get a unique, we design a unique poll worker pin every election. And let me just say, if we ever pulled those poll worker pins because we didn't have enough in our budget, I don't think we'd have a lot of poll workers very upset at us and maybe not even serving, because they'd rather have that than even the stipend that we give them. Let's see here. And then there's the completion of our building. That's what it looks like at night. We're on the campus, the county campus, with other departments on there. But one of the other great things is we have what is known as Election Plaza. And in that plaza, during the 2008, I'll always remember, in 2008, we had long lines ourselves, right? Some of those lines were about 5 to 6 hour waiting lines. I always joked around, and maybe it even did occur. I just remember people ordering pizza and eating pizza as they were standing in line. And I know there was a couple there that met and got married as a result of being in that line. But anyways, in our new building, and they were waiting out in the streets, right, at our old building. In our new low facility, we have what is known as an Election Plaza, where it's just a really great place if there was to be a line to just wait and really enjoy the atmosphere that comes with an election. Those two heads, you can't see them, but those two busts there, there are two busts right in front of it, and there's some public art right outside our office also. If you can't find it, we had a really difficult time. In the first election, that February 11th election, that mayoral runoff election, we had a lot of people complain that it was difficult to find our location. So one of the things that we did was have this huge banner that says "Vote Here." So if you ever get lost on the campus, just look for the "Vote Here" sign, right? And that's my presentation. Let me just say what we do have: an election official prayer, and for this November election, it is, "Lord, please let the winner win big." That's it, Ryan.
Awesome.
Oh, questions?
Yeah. Anybody have any questions?
Make sure to repeat them so that the
Yes.
camera can hear.
And I assume you have tours for kids from schools to show them the process. I think that's good for young people.
Yes. So the question was, do we do tours? We have. We've probably done more tours in the last less than a year that we've been in the building than in my 8 years being with the county. Right. One of the greatest moments when we had a group of Girl Scouts come through, and we got to have them tour through. We've had delegations like Burma come through and wanted to see the process. When they looked at our Pitney Bowes sorter, this it's this 50-foot long sorter that sorts all the mail ballots. When they saw that, they said, "Why don't we contract out you to conduct our elections?" And I said, "Well, why don't you invest in one of these?" And they said, "Our electricity is not very reliable." So, yes.
What does it cost the taxpayers to have these ballots printed in all these different languages?
It's a considerable amount of money. We don't. So what we do is we base it on the total number of people that have. The way we do our ballot order is based on like surname, birthplace, and requester information. So it's not like if we order, let's say, 900,000 polling place ballots that were in English, that we're going to do the exact same thing in the other respective languages. Actually, the numbers overall is like, I want to say about 200,000, 300,000 polling place ballots. But if you think about, they cost about 26 cents per ballot.
Wow.
Okay.
That's cheap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. How far do you think we have to go to get all mail-in ballots? What can we do to improve this?
What can we do to go to more mail ballots? At what point do you think, is there a threshold that will kind of go over on the opposite side and will ultimately go to all mail ballot situation? I would have thought it would have been the 60 to 70% range. I think that might be to the state level, this entire state, but it's going to take a while. And the reason why is because the Los Angeles County is only at 30%. They're really not keen on going to vote by mail. Sheer size is one of them. Voting system is a capacity issue for them. So there's some consideration there. You have counties out there, particularly up north, San Mateo and Santa Clara, they're at about 70 to 80% now. Oh, well, I might be exaggerating on 8%. It's probably more like 60 to 70% of their entire electorate is permanently vote by mail.
So eventually, we can close some of these balloting places, like you said you had.
No, not currently. So can we close some of these precincts? No. I mean, the laws are pretty, there's not much leeway there. The law would need to change, and this is where the state assembly members and state senators, a nudge there would be very helpful in pushing this concept of mail balloting. Yes?
When does online become feasible or logistical?
When does online become feasible? Not in my lifetime. I just don't see that happening anytime too soon. Let me just say that there's two reasons why. Let me be a little bit more serious in that response than one. We went down this road of even a electronic voting unit, a touchscreen voting unit, and as I mentioned before, we have purchased 10,200 voting units. It cost about $30 million. Right? We paid about $25 million for it. Secretary of State, 2007, decertified it and only allowed one unit per precinct. And the reason why is because it's security concern. That was number one. But there's two reasons why I don't think we'll get to that point. And if we did get to that point, two things would have to occur. Number one, the security has to be there. And even after the security is there, it could be even foolproof. The question of public will comes into play. Because when we talk about technology is very ambiguous, right? It's this trust concept. Trusted concept of technology, and if you're not a IT person and you're not an engineer, then there's always going to be this seed of doubt. And so there has to be overcoming the public will component of it. Yes?
How do you verify the signature?
Manually. How do we verify the signatures on the mail ballot? So, as I mentioned, when those mail envelopes with ballots inside of them are coming back, you signed it outside of that envelope, it's capturing all those signatures. We feed all that information into our voter registration system, and what will come up is the scanned signature of that envelope, and then right next to that is your signature from your registration form. And we manually compare. There are people in our office comparing on screen 4 signatures to these 4 signatures on screen, and they keep on rotating through until they verify it, and then they mark which ones are not verified. And we just don't stop there, by the way. If something doesn't verify, or if it does, it goes through a second check, and then after that, if it doesn't verify, then it goes through a third and potentially a fourth. It gets escalated, in other words, before we deny a ballot to not be counted. Yes?
Is there some kind of computer program that verifies signatures?
Yeah, there is technologies out there to do automatic signature verification. In fact, we have that automatic signature verification. It would, but I think what we've, in theory, would the automatic signature verification be better than a manual check? In theory, yes. We have slowly started to introduce that. We didn't just go full bore with some type of automatic signature verification because we wanted to test it ourselves. And so we're just ramping up to that point. Okay. All right.
Any questions? Well, I've got one. How many mail ballots do you get in that people mail on election day?
How many? A lot. Okay, so the question that Ryan asked is, I'll give you a straight answer here and say that just a lot, but how many mail ballots do we issue and how many of those are dropped off at a polling place on election day? So if I took the last election, we had about 420,000 ballots cast. I want to say 420,700 ballots cast, I think is the total number of ballots. A little over 60,000 of those were dropped off at the polls. We talked about the 2012 presidential general election where there was 1.2 million ballots cast. I want to say 163,000 mail ballots were dropped off at the polls.
Right, and the reason I ask that is because there's a lot of people that actually think that because they vote by mail on election day.
Yeah.
So they'll mail it on election day with just thinking that, oh, well, if you just mail it, it would happen to get counted.
How many arrive late?
So the question is, if you're dropping off your mail ballot on election day, is it going to count? is if you're dropping off at a polling place, yes, it does get counted.
What if you do it?
So if you don't mail it, so that's the one. So it has to be in the poll workers or in the registrar of voters' hands by 8 p.m. on election day. If it's not, and you mail it on election day through the U.S. Postal Service, it won't count because it didn't meet the in our possession by 8 p.m.
So postmark doesn't mean a thing.
Postmark does not. Now, that being said, yes, postmark, if you look at our material, it always will say postmark's not acceptable. Now, the legislature actually has a bill up at the legislature, is known as Senate Bill 29, that is trying to be introduced where postmarks would be acceptable. That is, if you mail it and it's postmarked on election day and it's received 3 days after, we still have the ability to count the ballot. And now, that's the other, so what does that tell you? It also tells you that just because election day occurs and we release election results, those are not the final official election results. We have 28-day period to canvass, what is known as canvass and certify the election. And part of that certification process is counting all of the mail ballots that we did not, were not able to get to process because they were dropped off at the polling place. Or it could be the provisional ballots that were cast at the polls. These are individuals that you go to a polling place and your name is not in the roster. You know you're registered at that location, but somehow your name is not on there or the poll workers can't find it. So they'll allow you to vote a provisional ballot. What that is essentially is a ballot goes into an envelope. You fill out the envelope, it comes back to us. We verify to make sure you haven't voted anywhere else, and then we count that ballot if you're registered. Okay. Yes. No,
Obviously on election day, you could have someone present observing ballots being scanned and stuff, but with the mail-in ballots, you said you start counting those 11 days prior to election day. Do you have observers watching that process as well?
So by law, so the question is we have observers that can be in a polling place on election day and they observe what the poll workers are doing and the voters that are coming through. Do we have observers when we're processing mail ballots? The answer is yes. We actually post a public notice on our website, not only on our website, but at our facility. So observers have the ability, and every election we have people ask. We actually go out to like the League of Women Voters, we go out to the political parties and say, if you want to be part of an observer panel, please let us know, and here's what the dates are for processing mail ballots, here's the dates when we're going to go through the certification process, here's the dates when we're going through what is required 1% manual tally. That is a post-election activity where we take 1% of the precincts and we manually count them to making sure that the voting system was counting the votes accurately.
And then last question.
And then last.
Does that deadline date also apply to military personnel that are in another country?
Does the 8 p.m. election day must be received apply to military and overseas voters? The answer is yes. Let me just say that, again, there's another piece of legislation that's going through the legislature now that addresses that, what we call postmark plus 3. The postmark, the Senate Bill 29 relates to all voters. There's another bill, and I don't know what that bill is, which is also postmark plus 3, but it's exclusive to just military and overseas voters. Okay.
Awesome.
Thank you, Michael. All right, I'm going to give you back your little thing here, PowerPoint presentation. All right. Next, I guess we're going to move into our elected official reports. So we'll start with Sarah Zarnecki. Sorry for getting to this kind of late, but microphone.
Awesome. Thanks, Sarah.
Good evening, everyone. I will be trying to be brief because I know that we all have things to go to, and we've had a really great presentation by the Registrar of Voters. Again, that was so awesome. Thank you. So a couple things from our office. Recently, the Congressman introduced the Student Loan Repayment Assistance Act, which would establish a program in which employers could opt in to set up a program with their employees, much like you contribute monthly to your IRA account or your 401k, and your employer has a percentage matching based program. They would send up a similar style program for student loan payments. So employers and their employees could enter into an agreement whereby the employee pays into their student loans pre-tax every month out of their paycheck, and their employer would match the funds that they contribute to that student loan payment to help, incentivize the fact that their employees are going out and getting the education that makes them valuable assets to their business. We've noticed that, especially here in San Diego and across the country, student loan debt is becoming an increasingly large percentage of our national debt. And any kind of tools that we can provide for students to make those repayments easier, especially in the first couple of years after you graduate from college, when maybe you don't have as much money of your own personally to contribute there, but your interest is still starting to accrue. We want to make sure that your student loans are able to be dealt with in a way that's financially sustainable for you. So that's a big one we're really excited about, actually. We've been working on that one a lot. So that one just dropped last week. The Congressman also recently introduced a jobs plan, which you can find on our website, scottpeters.house.gov, talking about the ways that we can improve the opportunities for businesses here in the San Diego region and across the country. We introduced a bill on the same lines, we introduced a bill to simplify, streamline, and digitize registration process for small businesses to be eligible to contract with the federal government. Currently, to register as a contractor, an eligible contractor with the federal government, there are 80 steps that a business must follow. That's a pretty huge burden, especially for our smaller businesses who we really want to encourage to be part of the contracting opportunities with the federal government. Obviously, federal government is one of the biggest customers you could have here in the United States, so we want to make sure that it's easier to do business with us. We also recently had a press conference to announce that our office had successfully reacquired over $1 million on behalf of our constituents here in San Diego. That's in a combination of casework with the Veterans Administration, so delayed veterans benefits, aid in attendance, complications with the IRS, or with the Social Security Administration. That was a really big milestone for us, because a lot of the time, most of the time, if you were to be coming into our office, that's what we're here doing at our computers, is helping make sure that folks who are having troubles with the bureaucracies of the federal government, that we can make the wheels turn for them. So that was a really big moment for us. And recently, the president actually signed into law several reforms to the Veterans Administration that were passed after the scandal came to light about veterans and wait times to seek medical care. This was really exciting for our office because the congressman actually introduced the motion to instruct, which means that he submitted a motion to encourage House leadership to bring to the floor the Senate package of bills that they had introduced to create that VA reform. It's very important for us here in San Diego because we're a military town and we're very proud of it, and we do what we can to support our veterans. We're very fortunate that our VA doesn't seem to be plagued with the problems that we've found in other parts of the country. We just passed an audit, actually, very, very successfully. But obviously we need to make sure that we as a nation are protecting and serving our veterans the way they protected and served us. And my last note, my last one, I promise, is that on September 2nd, that's the Tuesday after Labor Day, we're going to be hosting an event with our office here in Claremont at the SDG&E Energy Innovation Center. It's going to be a Women and Working Families resource workshop, because one of the main pieces of feedback that I get for events that we do is, talking about the policy is great. It was an important discussion to have here in the community, but where do we go for the resources now that we've identified the problems? Who can help me solve them? So that's what we're going to be doing, talking about the many resources that are available here in San Diego for working women and their families. And we would love you all to come. It's from 5:30 to 7. And I will be sending out an invitation probably to Ryan. And I'm always here for questions. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. Roberto from Marty Block's office.
Hello, everybody. First off, just want to touch on a subject. I saw there was a lot of interest on the vote by mail. And just want to let you know, Senator Block did try actually helping out with that. He had a bill, SB 1063, that was actually going to include prepaid postage on every vote by mail ballot out there, just to encourage people to vote. I know some people don't know the fact that the county just picks up the cost sometimes, and some people actually, it is a deterrent to not have a stamp to vote. So, but unfortunately that died in appropriations because of the cost, but we're hoping somebody picks it up again and actually is successful with that. But, we tried, but there was some bumps in the road, so it doesn't stop us from looking at different ways to improve our voting system here in California. Just to remind you all, basically the main message Senator Block wanted me to bring to you today is that there's a very important deadline coming up for the state. That is August 31st. August 31st is a legislative deadline, so all bills need to be pretty much passed out of the legislature and onto the governor's desk by that day. So any bill that you hear about, any legislation that you hear about, everything needs to be out of there by the 31st. So you pretty much have from now until the 31st to provide all your feedback to your legislators and to the governor and everybody, so we can make sure that some of these bills that you're interested in pass. So if there's any bill out there that you're very interested in, or you want to see passed, amended, or do you have opposition to, please call our office and let us know as soon as possible. The best way to reach us is martyblock.com. That's MARTYBLOCK.com. There you can find our email and our phone number for the office. And as always, we're happy to help you with any issues you have with the state agencies. I left some newsletters up here at the front. It has all our contact information. And just a quick reminder, things we can help you with are everything from unemployment to the DMV to basically cover California. So anything you need like that, please give us a call. We're happy to help. And does anybody have any questions? All right. Well, thank you.
All right, thank you, Bruno. Speaker Atkins' office. I don't see anybody here from Mainshine's office. I forgot to remove Sterling's name. Do we have anybody here from Ron Roberts' office? No. Ian or John? John, you're here from Mayor's office. All right.
Good evening, everyone. My name is John Lai. I'm Director of Outreach for Mayor Kevin Faulkner. I'll actually be replacing Ian at these meetings because I handle council districts 5 and 6, and Claremont is majority in 6. I hope to fill his shoes. I do have a few items. My email address is jly@sandiego.gov. Once again, jly@sandiego.gov. Best way to get a hold of me. Same way as you would use Ian. If you have a pothole, if there's a water project in your area and you have questions, just contact me. That's the best way to get a hold of me. A few items. Oversized vehicle ordinance. The police did touch on this. It's going into effect. Police and our PZOs are giving warnings currently, and it affects any vehicle that exceeds 27 feet in length and 7 feet in height. So it has to comply with both to qualify as oversized vehicle. And it's not going to allow parking on the streets between the hours of 2 and 6 a.m. without a permit. So they're actively right now going out there and giving out warnings as part of our outreach, because we want to make sure that the people who want to comply can comply. Convention Center. You might have heard about the judge's ruling on the Convention Center. Judges have ruled that the Convention Center is a tax, and therefore would need to go to a vote of the people. The city has till September 10th to appeal. We are currently weighing our options. The Convention Center is a very important business to the city. They do bring tourism. To talk about Comic-Con and bringing in bigger conventions. So we're going to evaluate and decide what we want to do, but we do still want to move forward with the Convention Center. Water conservation. We're currently under what in the city is level 1, which is mandatory restrictions. You might have heard about the county water authority going to level 2. Through this process, I've learned that multiple municipalities and cities have completely different levels. Our level 1 is mandatory, which is what the county water authority went to, so we're already there, which means a lot of stuff is the new normal for us. Restaurants aren't supposed to give you water unless you ask for it. You should have the option at a hotel not to have your linens and your towels cleaned and watering before 10 a.m. and after 6 p.m. Last item, City Council today approved SD Works. What SD Works is we are going to work with our city employees. If they come with an idea that we implement as a city and it saves us money, that city worker and that department gets a portion of that money back, up to $5,000 per employee. So hopefully our employees who do this every single day might have ideas to make it more efficient. Hopefully they're able to save the city money and in turn get a little bit of money themselves. That's all I have. Any questions?
Yeah, can you spell tell me your last name again?
Ly, L-Y. Ly, L-Y.
L-Y, thank you. Welcome.
John, J-O-H-N. Very, very, very easy.
I just heard about it today because Ian emailed me at 5 o'clock. I didn't have time to change the thing.
No problem. I mean, you can always still email Ian if you want to.
I have a question back there.
Yes, sir.
So, just out of curiosity with the water situation, has the city declined to issue new building permits because these, we're here saving, but the city wants tax revenue from new buildings, so we're saving so that you can put up new buildings and bring more people to San Diego. Not all bad, but of course, not all good for us either.
As it pertains to residential development, they need to get, that residential development needs to find a water source, and they usually get approval from the county water authority that there will be a water source for those units.
More of a comment. I'm just glad we finally are getting a representative from the mayor's office. It's been a while, and we hope to see you very often.
And thank you, but unfortunately I have 3 other community meetings the same day, so you're gonna be on a rotation of every 2 or 3 months. Unfortunately, I cannot come every single month. But you have my email address.
Rob from Mainshine's office is the same, because Penasquitos meets the same night we do.
And then I have San Pasquale too.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that what status of accelerating the water purification plants to give us another source of water?
Our Pure Water program is seeking federal and state approval. They are the regulators. We are hopeful. We have told our state and federal lobbyists that that is our #1 priority, because our goal is to diversify our water source so we don't be beholden to Metropolitan County Water Authority, and we'll be able to kind of ride some of these bad years out a little bit better than some of the other municipalities.
So you're waiting for some kind of approval?
The approval that this water indeed can be consumed by humans.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
We are under this water shortage, and we have been for a couple of years.
Yes.
Why did we put in this big fountain and stuff down at the county building?
That's a question for your county supervisor. But from what I understand, they use recycled water that is heavily chlorinated, but I do not know the details of how many gallons and how much is lost by evaporation.
Yeah. With the bay so close, why couldn't we pump the water out of the bay?
That is a question for your local supervisor, unfortunately.
All right, any other questions for John?
Thank you.
All right, hey, thanks, John. Julio de Guzman.
Thank you, Ryan. My name is Julio de Guzman, and Jack, thank you for your 30 years of military service. My name is Julio de Guzman. I'm from the City Attorney's Office, and I'm in the Neighborhood Prosecution Unit. And what we do is we prosecute neighborhood offenders of misdemeanors and infractions. So please, if you see a crime, or if you think you saw a crime, call the police department, 619-531-2000. The more witnesses and the more information the police department has, the easier it is for us to prosecute these offenders. So that's what we ask, 3-way partnership, the community, the police department, and the city attorney's office. Thank you very much. And Ryan has my email, and so I'm gonna, you still have public comments, I'm gonna give my time to the next person.
Steve Hadley's office, Ed Harris's office. All right, nobody? Anybody here from Lori Zapp's office? All right, public comment. Anybody got public comment? Hand it off.
Good evening. My name is Jonathan Herrera. I am one of the many directors of community outreach on behalf of the Carl DeMille for Mayor campaign. So I just wanted to briefly introduce myself. You'll probably see myself or a member of my team out in your neighborhoods over the next few weeks. So just wanted to introduce ourselves. We do have an event here for Claremont coming up on the 21st. There are invitations for you here on the table. It's going to be an open discussion. We really hope that you take this advantage to not only meet the candidate, but listen to his full reform agenda and share with us your guys' ideas on how we can, better improve our country. So we really look forward to your input, and thank you for the opportunity to earn your support.
Anybody else for public comment?
All right, everybody. Hello. So my name is Becca Taylor, and I just wanted to quickly introduce myself with the California Democratic Party. Thank you, Michael Vu, for doing the voter registration presentation. It really highlighted that a lot of people are not getting out there to vote. We had a record low turnout this past primary election, and we're working on changing that in November. And so one of the races we're focusing on is Congressman Scott Peters. You just heard Sarah's, gave you the lowdown on what's been going on lately. So if anybody wants to join in on that race, or even hit 2 birds with 1 stone and help us register more folks to vote, you can take down my email. It's r.taylor, that is Taylor, @cadem.org. And so once again, you can just reach out. I'll have a clipboard over there to sign people up. And thank you. Let me speak.
Anybody else for public comment? Turbo Bob, you always got something to say.
I know.
The 1 month you're quiet, come on.
I got plenty to say.
I think he said enough to
All right. So do we have any other public comment, or does Jack have public comment? Or is Jack just getting up and...
I'm getting you the microphone.
Oh, okay. Yes. All right. Arlene had something for Eden. Here we go. Was it on? There we go.
So Eden couldn't make it to the meeting this evening, and she had asked me to talk about just a quick announcement for the next meeting. The director of the San Diego Family Justice Center Foundation will be at our next meeting to discuss resources related to domestic violence and elder abuse. She or someone from her organization will also be here to discuss another program called Dress for Success. If anyone can bring items to the general meeting on September 4th, she'll be collecting them. If you can't make it to that meeting, then you can get a hold of Eden to drop off those items at her house on Moraga Avenue. If you'd like more information about either one of those programs, you could look at sandiego.gov/San Diego Family Justice Center or dressforsuccess.org for more information. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay, any other public comment? All right.
Yes, my name is Robert Gown. I'm a better complainer than I am a speaker, so stand by. I'm complaining about on Claremont Mesa Boulevard, the other side of Genesee, and on the other side streets, they put a big trench down the sidewalk. And I'm wondering how they can get away with this. It's such a safety hazard. You can't get out of your car. You're walking along the sidewalk, and there's 3 to 4 inch drop off on the side of the sidewalk. The trench is 1 foot deep and 3 foot wide. And I'm wondering how, it's so unsafe for anybody actually, but you get a blind person walking down through there, a person in a wheelchair, or an old man like me, you fall off in there. You couldn't get out. So I'm just wondering who I can talk to.
Lori Zapp's office.
I've tried to get a hold of Lori Zapp, and I just keep getting kicked back. And I wrote a letter to Mr. Guzman and an email, and I haven't heard anything from him. But I have heard from the engineering department, and they say, well, that's just the way it is. They're going to do that all over the city. So I don't know. I've got pictures here. You guys
Lori's
can
bad
look
about
at it.
very responsive, and they're normally here tonight for you to speak with, so.
Here's some pictures of the.
Lori's applicant, Bill Harris, too.
Ed Harris.
Ed.
Okay, Ted Harris, okay, yeah, all right, well, thank you very much, that's the only thing I can do. I keep getting the wrong email address for Lori Zapp, but I have some pictures here I can show you that this is a hazard. Thank you.
Wow, thank you for reporting that.
Yeah, then.
Okay, raffle prizes. If you all have a raffle ticket, let's see. Richard, do you want to do the raffle prize? Or at least pick up the. Oh, yeah, because we've got a couple of them. So, yeah. Oh, one more public comment. Sorry.
Okay. Here, take the microphone.
Microphone. Take the microphone.
My name is David Pierce. Hold on a second. My name is David Pierce. I live over on Lake Forest. And I've got an 8-bedroom house across the street from me that is now a fraternity frat house.
Would you start over again, please?
Okay, my name is David Pierce. I live on Lake Forest in North Claremont, just around the corner from over here. There's an 8-bedroom house across the street from me. My neighbors are here tonight also. It's now a frat house. I've got 24-hour-a-day parties, parking, car alarms. The neighbor's car got broken into last night. I've called the police. I've called code enforcement. I've called litter control, parking. Nothing gets done, and it's just getting crazy. And who do you contact? I mean, frat houses are illegal.
I know what you do. I have the same problem. You find out all the assessor's office, find out who owns the property, chances are they're renting it. Then you call the city and file a complaint against the owner of the house. When the owner of the house sees a fine for hundreds of dollars coming his way, he'll look at the law.
Well, the last house, this is the second go-around on the frat house thing. It happened last year, and now we're doing it again.
Contact the owner and report the owner. I did it, worked for 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks, and they were out in less than 2 weeks. That's because the owner didn't, well, the owner didn't know about it, why? And when the city informed him what was going on, they also informed him he was gonna get a huge fine for allowing so many broken ordinances and whatever else the city informed him of.
I mean, when I called code enforcement on this, they didn't even want to.
You have to really find the owner of the house.
I can find the owner of the house. I can talk to real estate buddy and get that.
You can get that from the assessor's office. I did it, they'll give it to you over the phone. Yeah, they will. And then you
Okay.
go right for the owner. Forget the kids. They don't
They don't care.
care. They feel like they don't have to answer anybody. The owner has to answer to the city for who he rents his property with.
I mean, I know I called the cops, and there's not enough cops to go around, and it never happens. No one ever shows up. It's just getting crazy.
Call the owner.
Okay.
Yeah, if they find drugs and stuff at the house, they can take the house.
And Julio, I think, wants to give you a card too.
I'll give them my card. I will help it.
Okay, fantastic.
Can't make any promises, but I'll help.
All right, thank you, Julio. Okay, now we're going to get over into the raffle prizes. Joe, what did we have?
Yes, we have a free oil change at the, it's Thomas Brothers. Car, okay. We have a free oil change for a door prize. Excuse me. Thank you. Have a free oil change at the, it's Thomas Brothers Garage up on Claremont Drive across from Keels. And it's about a $35 gift card. All right, thank you. We got a number?
Oh, 1 second. Who is it, Julio?
I didn't look at the numbers.
The last three numbers is 589.
Wrong number.
589.
589.
589.
Over there. Here.
Well, she's on the board, she doesn't qualify.
Well, she wasn't on the board when she walked in. She hadn't been elected on the board yet.
Yes, she was.
So, I'm gonna override you. I'm
She
gonna override
already
you.
She got in late, but she'd already been elected to the board.
Do you know where it is? Miss Thomas right, it's down
I propose we
south
never do
Claremont Drive.
Who wants to second?
Okay, it's August. We're right in the middle of movie season, so we have a $25 gift certificate to the movie theater right here over in Claremont.
All right, come on, now we're going.
Another drawing?
Yep.
Where'd my drawing?
Get anybody else. Just get another.
I'm your secretary.
We trust you.
This is a stranger.
All right. Video guy, Bo Monahan.
583.
Again, wrong number.
583.
583.
They left. They're gone.
They're gone. By the way, before we pick the other ticket, give a round of applause to Bo Monahan. He's live streaming the meeting tonight, so.
Does he represent a company, or is he just a private individual?
You're doing it. Now I'm looking straight into the camera, talking to you. I'm sorry. What?
577.
577. There you go. All right, we got one more. It is 2 free game tickets to the San Diego Padres.
All right. Okay, what's the number?
And you have to use them before September 24th. Yes.
581.
581. Right in the back. In the back. All right. Also, give a round of applause to Starbucks for providing us coffee. The Starbucks, I know we've got a few of them in Claremont, but the one that usually gives us the coffee is the one at Claremont Drive and Balboa Avenue. So they're really cool. There's a list of the dates too. I'll give you that here in a second. Other than that, this Saturday, PolitiFest 2014, our board of directors meeting. We've got one more opening on the board. We'll be interviewing candidates that are interested in the director-at-large position for that at our August 28th meeting, 6:30 p.m. We meet here. Our next town council meeting, September 4th. Other than that, we are done. See you next month.
That was so nice of you. Is that going to be every month you're going to do that?